Is it working? Good.
MAGA is a common slogan these days. Make America Great Again. It is to some controversial. Nonetheless, it is on the national level. It is the agenda. More precisely, MAGA represents return to constitutional government. How can the Matsu borough be a part of this agenda, and more importantly, should we be a part of it?
Let me start with the first part. It shouldn't be controversial anywhere. I can't get my head around why anybody has a problem with us making America great again, or making the Matsu or Alaska, or if I was a Chinese person, I'd be saying the same thing about my own country there. Why would you not want to make your country great? Well, listen to Mike Dunleavy here a while back, and he's talking about when he came here in '82, how the state was going gangbusters. Well, the same thing happened to me. I got here in '81, and Alaska was on the move. Right now, because of the policies of our current president, our country's on the move. We have some of the lowest, definitely the lowest unemployment in my working history, maybe in my lifetime, and I'm 55. We got the lowest unemployment among Black Americans, the lowest unemployment among Hispanic Americans. How is this a problem? I don't get that. However, while the whole country is going like crazy, we're in a veritable depression here in Alaska. So how would we go about making Alaska great again, making the Matsu great? Well, if we follow those same guidelines, i.e. making us business friendly, which we are not, and we're lying if we say we are. We're not business friendly here. My wife works for a company right now. She'll be ending her work with them 2 days from now, and I won't go into any detail right now, but I will very soon, because I despise crony capitalism, and we see it very plainly there. She does elder care. She had to go take care of an old gentleman today, and he's told her plainly, I don't need help. But there is a particular hospital here that is basically trying to tell people, you have to get help, and you have to go to this particular company, when the person is saying, I don't need help at all. That kind of crony capitalism, if I know your dad and you grease my palm just the right way, you're going to get this job over here. Otherwise, forget it. You're not going to get any breaks. We have that kind of thing here. Like I mentioned the last go round, we got resources coming out our ears up here. We got all kinds of things that we could be doing if we just will. And I think that one of our greatest commodities here, anywhere, but I'm talking about right here, is this, what the people have between their ears, if they will just be allowed to develop it. Everybody's got a good idea, and we can make the Matsu not only great, but we can be the leaders of the state. And I honestly believe that if we do the things that we can do, and I'm going to see to it that we do if I've got any pull in the matter, that the other boroughs in the state are going to look at the Matsu and say, well, we can do that. If they can do it, we can do it. And then the whole state's going to say, well, we can do it. And then the next state down the line is going to say, if they can do it in Alaska and come from dead last to out leading the pack, we can do that. And next thing you know, it's catching on everywhere.
These days, Bruce, it seems that there's a lot of bad press regarding the quality of education being provided to our children, not just in the Matsu borough, but also the state as a whole. How would MAGA be applied, if at all, in a reversal of this trend?
Here a few years ago, I was running for office, and I mentioned the fact that at the time we were 46th in the nation. I think we're dead last now. Look what an improvement. And that's saying plenty, because the school system in our country really isn't all that great in the nation as a whole. And we're dead last. So anybody that says, well, you're being unfair, because I had somebody say this to me, said, well, you're not taking into account the native schools. I don't care how you look at it, we're failing. You can look at it from any angle you want to. Our school systems are failing here. And I believe that I know why. The reason why is we have gotten the cart in front of the horse. We've got the tail wagging the dog here, because it's not about the teachers. It's not about the school building. It's not even about the parents. It's about that student. Perfect case. And my sister, she actually lives in another state. And the guy who was our principal when I was a kid is a gentleman by the name of Mr. DeWitt, and we all admired him. He's a Korean War vet, and he's a young guy back then. He's only, in his 30s or 40s. Raised up, they taught us the way they taught us back in the day. And a perfect example, my sister was in elder care. She got called out to an old gentleman's house, and it was Mr. DeWitt as an 80, almost 90-year-old man now, needing to be taken care of. And he was taken care of because the kids were taught something. It scares me as a 55-year-old man to think that the way that we're raising our kids in schools here now, our smart kids are saying, the heck with this, I'm leaving, and they all leave the state. Our best and brightest wind up leaving. And we have left the ones that, they kind of squeak by, or the ones that just dig in their heels, say, I'm not leaving. I would be that kid, because you'll have to bury me here. But the bottom line is our school systems are failing, no matter how you look at it. So how do we fix that? Rolling it back to when I was a kid, we were taught a certain way, and I think it was far better. But I don't know that it was the best way. There may be a way to teach our kids that we've never thought of yet, but we're not doing that, because what we're doing here is we're making sure that teachers' jobs are secure. We're making sure that builders are out there building schools, and they're totally forgetting that why they're there in the first place are those students. We just saw the valley, what they call the North Valley High up by Talkeetna. It burned down here a few years ago. Some kid burned it down. They built a new one. They finished building it 9 years ago, and now they're setting money aside to re-side that school. The school that I went to turned 100 years old last year, Howard Elementary School, and they've re-roofed it, I think, 4 times over the last 100 years. And the reason why is because they built things to last back then. We don't build things to last up here. So we wind up spending all kinds of money building new schools. We actually have a school site selection committee or whatever here in the Matsu. I saw that when I was on the planning commission. For what? So we can see how many schools we can build and to what end. We should be saying, how can we teach our kids the most effective way possible, so that the kids that don't go to school in Alaska see our kids show up and say, boy, I wish I was like them. I want the school systems outside of Alaska to look at Alaska's school system and say, I want us to be like them. Look what they're doing. Instead, we're turning out kids that they go to college and they have to take remedial math and English because they didn't learn anything. They don't even teach them cursive anymore, I don't think. We've got to do better than we're doing. And how we're going to do it is simply by having the willpower to say, you know what, don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but you people are failing us. You're not teaching our kids well. You're going to have to do better. Now, one guy who's on the assembly, he had a very good idea, and I don't know how one might go about this, but taking the superintendent here and saying, we're going to pay you the wage of the lowest paid teacher in the borough. But if you can get us in the top 10 percentile in the country, we're going to give you a bonus of $500,000. That might be a way to start. But we're going to have to do something different. Now, I'm tired of hearing all the whining and crying about how they've got it so tough. I taught in my environment as a special forces soldier. I had to go and teach in places where there were bullets flying and had to teach in their languages, and we taught. And the difference being that the school teachers, they teach your kid wrong or they teach them poorly, shame on that teacher. If I teach somebody wrong, they die. That's teaching in a tough environment. Come back and tell me about it. We can do better than we're doing, and we'd better start doing it. I really believe that if we really took it seriously, we'd take that terrible weakness and make it a great strength, and within 4 years, we'd be in the top 10 percentile. I think we gotta.
All right. Illegal immigration is a hot topic these days. While it isn't a pressing issue in the borough or Alaska as of yet, someday it very well could be. How could we as a borough ensure that it doesn't become an issue? Education, voter ID. Alaska currently has no sanctuary cities. Would preemptive laws banning them in the future be both legal and effective?
I think it would be legal, yes, because it's illegal to be a sanctuary city if you really think about it. You can't have a city and say, you know what, we're a city, so we're just going to totally ignore federal law. You can't do that. You cannot, as a city or as a state, say we're going to ignore federal law. You can't. That's illegal. So to have a city that we just decide we're going to be if we in the Matsu said we're going to be a sanctuary borough, no, you can't legally do that. And the president has a right to take action on that. People can stand up and fight if they want to, but the bottom line is you can't go against the Constitution just because your people are a bunch of liberals. Sorry if that hurts people's feelings. That's just the way it is. Now, very interesting thing. My wife and my daughter-in-law are both immigrants. My wife's from Nepal. My daughter-in-law is from Burma. Well, my wife had to take in on her job. She had to take someone somewhere the other day. And the lady started in telling her how terrible our president was, and he was a racist, and he hates immigrants. And my wife's a Gurkha. She don't roll over for things like that. And every argument this lady come up with, she just shot it down. And by the time she was done, the lady's like, wow, you've really given me something to think about. And she said, and told her that he's not against immigrants, he's against illegal immigration. We should all be against breaking the law, period. I don't care if it's stealing a bubble gum at the local store or robbing a bank. If it's illegal, it's illegal. Now, here in Alaska, it don't touch us so much, but it does touch us. Because I guarantee you right now, I could take you to Anchorage and I could show you some people that are here illegally. It wouldn't take that much. I don't know them, and people say, oh, you know where there's an illegal, shame on you. And I don't, but I guarantee it would be very easy to find them. And it will, if things continue like they were until we've got the adults in charge of the country again, you would see it up here, because this is we're away from the flagpole up here. Nobody notices what goes on in Alaska except Alaskans. So we're going to have to stand up and take note of it. Now, could we make it illegal in the future? Well, it's illegal now. How could we go about keeping, for instance, illegals from voting? Well, it's kind of that way now, because I know when I vote, I have to show my ID. So we kind of got that here. Well, there's a problem with that, because the city of Anchorage just had their mail-in ballot, and you know what? Do you have any idea how easy it is to steal an election like that? And now they're trying to do it statewide. And I can guarantee you that if they do that across this state, you've had your last free election, because they'll steal every one of them. I know a lady in the Butte who, I believe this was before I came home, it was while I was still in the Army. There's a woman that ran for, or a person ran for, I believe, assembly here in the Matsu. And the lady who kind of served as the campaign manager died, and on her deathbed she confessed that they stole the election. So if they can steal an election when you literally have to walk in and hand a ballot to, stick it in the machine and all that, how easy is it to steal an election where they never even look at your face? They say they train these people so they're experts in handwriting. So are you kidding me? I'm not an expert forger, but I would be willing to bet that I could forge someone's signature. If you can sketch, you can forge a signature. Now, you look at places like we have seen in recent elections, for instance, one outfit, and I think it was on the East Coast, I've written about this, where there were a bunch of absentee ballots, and they all happened to come in alphabetical order, and nobody flinched. And you had another outfit where not one single person voted for the Republican, they all voted for that's statistically impossible. It don't happen that way. So elections are being stolen right now. How much easier if we're mailing in those ballots? So that I kind of strayed from the point, but hopefully not so much. We need to take this state and this borough in hands. There will never be a mail-in election here. And I hope that Anchorage wakes up, because if they don't demand change back to what they had, they've had their last free election. It's going to be a mail-in, and you might as well just endorse the other guy. So.